New from New York Times, Trump covets Venezuela's oil. Trump has talked about seizing it. His envoy secretly pushed Maduro on it. Machado, the opposition leader, tells Trump's allies that she'll open up the industry to U.S. companies, and U.S. officials talk about pushing out China. The only thing you can look forward to, for the record, about whether or not this initiative will succeed is American incompetence. Okay, it will not be any sort of popular resistance. It won't be the base leaving Trump behind. It will simply fail because America fails all the time, because the current American government is incredibly incompetent. So I haven't gotten this wrong, so I suspect it'll be similar. The new national security strategy says they need to control the governments in Latin and Central America. They will do all they can up front or behind the scenes to replace the pink wave. Chile's new president loves Pinochet and son of a former Nazi. Honduras president is claiming a coup is underway. Yeah, this is a solid piece filled with lots of good insight, but nowhere does it acknowledge that the U.S. is currently producing nearly 14 million BPD of crude oil. More oil is produced in New Mexico than in Venezuela. Expelling China creates opportunities for U.S. companies, but companies also have opportunities to drill within the USA. Venezuelan reserves are large, but the commercial case for exploitation is less compelling than, say, Albertan tar sands. It's about eradicating market competition and ensuring that China doesn't have ease of access to this natural resource. He's thinking about it with today's point of view dictates that if America were to extract this oil, it would be more expensive. That attitude revolves around the current administration playing ball with the United States of America and demanding some price on up top, as opposed to a much more pliant puppet state that will basically enslave its population at the behest of American capital. I don't think anyone is going to say no to more oil extraction, especially at cheaper price points. Anyway, we also have, because the U.S. gave up on energy transition, even that wasn't a giving up on the energy transition. It was to combat China. Once again, who is leading on the green energy transition? Oh my God, it's China. You literally turn over any rock, any stone, and underneath it, you will find the same fucking answer. America can't catch up or beat China in this race. So what they're doing is flipping the fucking table. I'm coping because the Venezuela thing is making me sick, but will the domestic militia just allow American capital to set up and stall in their backyard? I might be coping, but it seems at odds with what they would expect. No, I think that there will be tremendous, in the worst case scenario, or in America's best case scenario, Maduro gives up. Says, I'm so sorry, I'm running away. He moves to like Turkey, or he moves to Russia or something. Most likely Turkey. Okay, he runs away. He runs to Turkey. He's living out the rest of his days in Turkey. We put Machado in charge. Okay, if you think that there won't be people armed and ready to fucking fight back against Machado, especially after she starts selling all of the Venezuelan natural resources to American capital owners, you're out of your fucking mind. Yes, there will be tremendous bloodshed. And in order to suppress that discontent, that popular uprising, she will make Maduro look like the greatest democratic leader of all time in an effort to ensure that there is no popular uprising that succeeds. There will be a civil war, and Venezuela will be a failed state with what remains of the military protecting the natural assets at the behest of foreign capital. And then the rest of the country succumbs to even worse violence and worse bloodshed and an even worse economic future than what they currently have. That's America's best case scenario for Venezuela. I don't even know what the long-term goal looks like here, where every country that's not America or Europe turns into Libya. I don't know how we just continue to live this way, especially when there is direct access through the continent to U.S. soil. But I guess that's the reason why they're also beefing up on their interior removal strategies by creating a massive force of ICE agents, both to stamp out any sort of domestic discontent in the United States of America and also to make sure that they beef up their border control to protect American super profit. But yeah, I mean, we already know the New York Times' attitude on this. Come on now. The country that can manufacture the most steel planes, missiles, computer chips will win the long war. America was once the world's industrial superpower. Now it accounts for just 17% of global manufacturing. China controls 28%, and its lead is growing. But America doesn't stand alone. Together with allies and partners, the United States can match China's industrial might. America cannot win alone. This is from the Times editorial board, okay, talking about how America must win the industrial race so they can dominate the world once again. America must beef up its military. This op-ed argues that the U.S. should turn to Silicon Valley defense contractors. They criticize Lockheed Martin and promote Palantir and Anduril. It's a push for more military spending disguised as something new that traditional contractors can't provide. Still bullshit. I already pushed for this a while back when NPR did positive approach. I think it was like a year or maybe a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, when they were talking about America's procurement strategies being left behind because, the Ukraine battlefront is actually utilizing new techniques and technologies, and America's procurement strategies are way behind the rest of the world. And to focus on, we must rely on Silicon Valley to ensure that we have some kind of technological upper hand in the field of battle. I heard that Andrew was already getting preferential treatment during the RFP process over Lockheed, etc. Anyway, America is becoming the Earth's obstructionist nation. Humans will never progress. I mean, that's capitalism, and America is the defender of capitalism, and therefore they're doing things like this. Okay. The entire auditorium at Turning Point USA Student Action Summit leapt to their feet and chanted, "Christ is King," a slogan Nick Fuentes' Groper movement. This is the campus anti-Semitism crisis. Our political establishment, American Jewish leaders should be worried. Everywhere I go, whether people are driving past me on a street in the U.S. or abroad, I mean, this is in 2020, okay, June 17th, 2024. Candace Owens moved this Groper slogan mainstream as a clapback against Ben Shapiro while quoting Bible verses. This specifically anti-Jewish connotations were obvious alongside the Christian supremacy. Gen Z conservatives are jubilant. This is where the right is headed. Fuentes and co. were kicked out of the summit and tried to make a pitiful media spectacle of it, as they do every year. But the real story is that their ideology took center stage. This is also the story of the alt-right and conservative movement since 20. To be fair, Christians have been saying Christ is King way before Nick Fuentes. Yes, but Nick Fuentes and his followers as like a call sign. Don't say Christ is King has nothing to do with Nick, guys. I know Christ is a thing that Christians say contextually at the Turning Point USA summit. The reason why they're using this is because it's a way to say, like, we're here, the Groypers are here. And that was back in 2020.
President Trump's chief of staff is speaking out about the administration in a series of interviews with Vanity Fair. Susie Wiles says Trump has a, quote, alcoholic personality and will go for it whenever he sees an opportunity for retribution. She also calls Vice President Vance a conspiracy theorist for a decade and says Attorney General Pam Bondi whiffed on the Epstein files controversy. Now Wiles is calling the article a disingenuously framed hit piece. White House correspondent Karen.
Yeah, bro, she fucking daggered everybody in the admin in this, okay? Also, she got the Erica Kirky. I don't know what's up with that.
Travers is here for more. Hi, Karen. So Wiles is taking issue with this article, but she's not denying the specific quotes, and some of them are pretty eye-opening. So how is she explaining some of these statements?
Yeah, and this was a series of interviews that she did with Vanity Fair's Chris Whipple over many months. 11 interviews, he said, that he put together in these two pieces. In her statement posted on social media, Susie Wiles says this is a disingenuously framed hit piece on me, the president, the White House staff, and the cabinet. But she also says that this was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. But Diane, this piece has Washington talking because there are some incredible headlines in here. She talks about the president's retribution campaign, saying that when there's an opportunity, he will go for it, but that there was a loose agreement that the score settling would end before the first 90 days of his term were over. She talked about Elon Musk, who came in and was put in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency. She said that he was an odd duck whose actions were not always rational and sometimes left her aghast. She talked about J.D. Vance, who at one point was very anti-Trump and then, of course, is now part of the MAGA fold, and she said that that conversion was sort of political. She talked about the tariffs that the president put in place and said that there was a huge disagreement about this major policy decision of the president's, saying that this was a conversation and disagreement about whether they were a good idea. And on the president's current strategy in the Caribbean against Venezuela, she says that that strategy is to keep blowing up boats until Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, says uncle.
And Wiles also revealed President Trump is...
I love pearl-clutching Republicans acting like this will do shit but isolate them and make libs pat them on the back. I don't even understand what the fuck she was thinking. I guess, like, they just get very excited. Any mainstream media appeal still. They, like, think that mainstream media will do them any... But, I mean, look at these fucking shots, dude. Vanity Fair cooked them so hard. That is crazy, brother. That is an insane photo. I mean, really, the filler injection sites. Like, I feel like they specifically made Marco Rubio's ear a part of the this, as I used to be in the past as a but this is the closest I've arrived to snow bunny mind control, like being a okay, and this is literally snow bunny mind control. Are you fucking? She's like, oh yeah, I love my white jeans. I'm not gonna back down from loving whites. Oh, people are saying I'm a white supremacist. I just love jeans. The whiter they are, the better they are. And then comes out, titties on deck. Get the fuck out. Click away. I'm smarter than that. Susie Wiles told the New York Times she didn't call Elon Musk an avowed ketamine addict in one of her 11 interviews with Vanity Fair. That's ridiculous. I wouldn't know. Vanity Fair, cool. Here's a recording of you. Oh my fucking gosh. She's supposed to be the only competent person, for the record. You understand that, right? Like, Susie Wiles getting caught like this is because she is the maximum competent person, perhaps one of the only competent people in the. Obviously, like, the Elon Musk ketamine thing is not that big of a deal because Donald Trump has basically also said similar things. The rest of this stuff is not good. She basically says it's a state of chaos with warring interests, and every single person is a. On the morning of November 4th, on an off-year election day, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles was meeting in the Oval Office with the president and his top advisors, men she calls her VP JD, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff. The agenda was twofold: ending the congressional filibuster and forcing Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro from power. As she related, President Trump was holding forth on the filibuster when Wiles stood up and started for the door. Is this an emergency that you have to leave? He demanded. It was nothing of the sort. But Wiles left Trump guessing. She replied, it's an emergency. It's of you. With that, according to Wiles, Wiles, while wearing dark pants and a plain black leather top, met me in the office with a smile and a handshake. Over sandwiches from the White House mess, we talked about the challenges. I'm no child. I'm 10 years older than you. If you don't want mine or that's opinion, make YouTube videos. Who are you? Duking it out with the entirety of the chat? Okay. You, Grandpa. You tell OG Bobby Chris has. Wiles and I have spoken regularly about almost everything. The contents, consequences of the Epstein files, ISIS brutal mass deportations, blah, 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 all this shit. I don't care, okay? Most senior White House officials parse their words and speak only on background, but over many on-the-record conversations, Wiles answered almost every question I heard. We often spoke on Sundays after church. Wiles, an Episcopalian, calls herself Catholic Light. One time we spoke while she, in her Washington, D.C. rental, Trump, she told me, has an alcoholic study. Vance, never Trumper to MAGA acolyte, she said, has been sort of. The vice president, she added, has been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Russell Vought, architect of the notorious Project 2025 and head of the Office of Management and Budget, is a right-wing absolute zealot. When I asked her what she thought of Musk reposting a tweet about public sector workers killing millions under Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, she replied, I think that's when he's listening. She says she doesn't have knowledge. Wiles is the most powerful in the White House other than the president himself. Unlike any chief of staff before her, she also happens to be one of the only competent individuals in the admin. Okay, she is literally, this is a as Trump she is the last soldier. I suspect everything will fall apart because every person, I'm sure Trump knows as well, is a she has been able to carry this and whip them into shape over and over again. If you are wondering how the Trump administration, despite having many different loud voices, has been demonstrated a degree of incompetent competence, as it, Susie Wiles is the big. So many decisions of great consequence are being made on the whim of the president. And as far as I can tell, the only force that can direct or channel that whim is Susie, a former Republican chief told me. In most White Houses, the chief of staff is the first among a bunch of equals. She may be the first with. I don't think there's anybody in the world right now that could do the job that she's doing, Rubio told me. He called her bond with Trump and earn trust. Vance described Wiles' approach to the chief's job. There is this idea that people have that I think was very common in the first admin, he told me, that their objective was to control the president or influence the president or even manipulate the president because that they had to in order to serve national interests. Susie just takes the diametrically opposite viewpoint, which is that she's a facilitator, that the American people have elected Donald Trump, and her job is to actually facilitate his vision and to make it. It's been a busy year. Trump and his team have expanded limits of presidential power, unilaterally declared war on drug cartels, imposed tariffs. We already know, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, Trump has waged war on his political enemies, pardoned the January 6 rioters, firing nearly everyone involved in their investigation and prosecution, sued media companies into multi-million-dollar settlements. Even reading 2 paragraphs of the last 12 months, okay? Even when I'm like reading a summarization, moments is too much. He's redefined the way presidents behave, verbally abusing women, minorities, almost anyone who offends them. Charlie Kirk's assassination in September turbocharged Trump's campaign and revolution. Critics have compared this moment to the Reichstag fire, a modern version of Hitler's exploitation of the torture. The White Donald Rumsfeld, Gerald Ford's chief, explained, the White House's chief of staff is the one person besides his wife who can look him right in the eye and say, this is not right. You simply can't. Just how far will Trump veer off the guardrails of democracy? The question around Wiles' tenure under Trump has been whether she will do anything to restrain him. A better question, damn, it goes all the way back to T-minus 9 days, but there's a lot of interesting stuff in here and a lot of drama, which I don't really have the confidence. But here's another. Susie Wiles' interview seems like a major unforced error. There was no need to get profiled for Vanity Fair. Her comments were uncharacteristically came off as undermining the administration's messaging and random defensive people. To be fair, I'm sure this is extremely frustrating to her because that wasn't her intent and quotes were taken out of context, but they weren't fabricated. She said, we've all misspoken at times, but this wasn't a one-off gaffe. There were 11 interviews and a whole photo shoot. Super confusing how this was even possible given that the White House has a press team and extensive media coaching. In contrast, the quotes from Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance were totally aligned. And let's move on to some choice quotes from this article.
And yet, to J. Mart's point, one of the hallmarks of President Trump's first term would be staff dissension and sometimes stunning comments made by staff, sometimes in interviews.
Gotta pee.
Well, we've got that here for Trump 2.0 as well, because just this morning, just a short time ago, Vanity Fair released a stunning new series of interviews with Susie Wiles, President Trump's chief of staff. In them, in a series of 11 interviews, Wiles gives candid answers about the president, his term so far, as well as many of those in and around administration. Wiles told author Whipple, quote, Trump has an alcoholic personality. Wiles also says that J.D. Vance's conversion from never Trumper to Medalite has been, quote, sort of political. The vice president, she added, has been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Russell Vought, architect of the notorious Project 2025 and the head of the Office of Management and Budget, is a, quote, right-wing absolute zealot. And when asked what she thought of Elon Musk reposting a tweet about public sector workers killing millions under Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, Wiles replied, I think that's when he's microdosing, referring to the ketamine. Wiles added she doesn't have firsthand knowledge of that. The chief of staff was also deeply critical of Attorney General Pam Bondi for her handling of files. Wiles said this, I think she completely whiffed on appreciating that very targeted group that cared about this. Wiles continued, first she gave them binders full of nothingness, and then she said that the witness list or the client list, desk. There is no client list, and it's sure as hell. Whipple writes that he asked Wiles back in March if she ever went to President Trump and told him that this term is not supposed to be. Yes, I do, she replied. We have a loose agreement that the score settling will end before the first over. Whipple asked Wiles again in late August, far beyond days, this way, quote, I don't think he's on a retribution tour, she said. A governing principle for him is, I don't want what happened to me to happen to somebody else. And so people that have done bad things need to get out of the government. In some cases, it's retribution. And there may be an element of time. Who would blame him? When Whipple pressed Wiles about accusing New York Attorney General Letitia James of mortgage fraud, Trump did that, Wiles responded this way, well, that might be retribution. And when asked if she's called out the president on that, no, not on her. She had $500 million. Wiles.
Yes, this is the cause to keep the voice even when most of the people are incompetent charlatans, a lot better than Trump won, as anchors also talked about. Because Trump won, many of you maybe, there were so many leakers, there were so many people who were actually like invest job, not just being a servant to Trump's interests. Those immediate needs were, right? Like they were not doing what this administration damaging to a reason, because Trump is loyalists and that are first and foremost invested.
Peter Baker, we're sort of breathless. We're all kind of dizzy this morning. You got an early look at the Vanity Fair piece and wrote the Times, which has been ricocheting across social media hour or so. So many things to dive into here, including Wiles putting the cards on the table in terms of Venezuela and what they're trying to do there, saying that indeed Trump is simply trying to pressure with these voted pressure Maduro to step down. Talk about that and other things.
Yeah, she said this is all about getting Maduro to cry uncle. And she also said that if Trump goes for land strikes, which he's been talking about lately, that he would have to go to Congress for authorization. That's a really interesting concession, because I haven't heard White House say up until now that they needed Congress for anything when it comes to this on Venezuela and drug smuggling and so on. So that's an important point. It's a fascinating series of interviews. You know, she came to relax in her conversations with Chris Whipple. Chris wrote the book on chiefs of staff. She looked at these conversations as part of, setting the history of her time as chief of staff. In some ways, she's been the most successful of Trump's chief of staff, one that he actually seems to trust. She didn't view her job. She doesn't view her job like John Kelly did. John Kelly viewed his job as somebody who threw his body in front of the train as it headed down to places that he thought were busy. Wiles looks at her job. She looks at her job as facilitate Trump's agenda, things he wants to do, even if she thinks he's gone too far. She talks in the article about the times when she urged him to do things he didn't, like not to pardon all of the most violent January 6th rioters, to wait on tariffs until there was agreement on his team, and so on and so forth. But he says, hey, when
I mean, J-Mart, this is...
This sounds more like an affair than I think Susie was fucking. Olivia get the nuzzy type 11.
It's pretty stunning stuff to, it's wonder what the reaction will be from the Oval Office.
Profile, my Vanity Fair profile, which also did some pretty solid numbers. That was conducted over okay.
The White House, we know Trump 1.0 was really marked by a lot of turnover. President Trump, has really prided himself in there being a lot less of that this time around. Susie Wiles actually has been getting a lot of credit in Washington for running a tight.
To be fair, you're not the chief of staff. That makes it worse for her. I'm a Yahoo streamer, and I'm saying I didn't do 11 interviews. Do you understand? If you're the chief of staff, you, especially for an administration like this one, definitely should not be doing 11 separate interviews.
Leadership this time around. I think that was true up until a month or two ago. Suddenly things seem to be derailing somewhat. But I'm curious as to what you make of this interview. What jumped out to you? Actions will be.
Well, first of all, hats off to Chris Whipple, who's figured out the chiefs of staff beat can pay off, because he did the same thing as Peter mentioned as well. I think everybody in Washington, John, was waiting for a big Susie Wiles piece. We just didn't think she'd be the one, right? I think this was kind of expected. What does Susie Wiles actually think? And I think that story was ripe. But nobody would have guessed that she would do it herself on the record. But look, this gets to the heart of Trump. Look at not just the text of the article, guys. Look at the photos on the screen. The entire senior staff sat for an Annie Leibovitz style, I don't know if it was Annie herself, glam shot in the West Wing. This gets to the heart of Trump. He pretends to hate the media. Nobody covets the media's good favor like Donald Trump. And of course the staff acts in kind. So yeah, they pose for the photo spread for a glossy magazine that is no fan of right-wing politics. And of course, yes, the chief of staff goes on the record, 7 interviews, and sort of talks candidly about the person that she works for and the folks around her. John, to answer your question, I don't know if there's there's going to be any adverse reaction, because typically the person who would be the enforcer to this kind of thing is Susie Wiles herself. So I'm not sure who would actually lower the boom if it's not Donald Trump. And I think Donald Trump needs Susie Wiles right now. She's going to be the enforcer.
So Peter Baker, because, President Trump, I don't think never likes it. Gets too much attention. It's possible that could be a play here. We do know he's quite fond of Susie Wiles and fond of her father, NFL legend and broad, Pat Summerall. Even Wiles' words for Trump, though, saying he has an alcoholic's personality, knew her father, Pat Summerall, was an alcoholic. I don't know how well that will land. We know how much Trump really hates alcohol and drinking. But give us your sense here as to what this next stretch could look like for an administration where there are already rumors growing that there could be a lot of turnover sometime next year at 1 year mark.
Alcoholic's personality without the alcohol is such a L. You got none of it, okay? You're not even fun at parties. Okay, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the alcoholic's personality, what she's talking about, you're right, is her father. She got to understand what people with big personalities in effect do. She says an alcoholic, a high-functioning alcoholic, or even everyday alcoholics somehow manage to be even more of themselves. And she's talking about Trump in that sense, not that he's not a drinker. We know that. But she said he has that big personality who believes he can do anything and that there's nothing he cannot, she says.
Yeah, this was funny response to Marco Rubio complaining about this. It's obvious to most people that Vanity Fair deliberately manipulated the pictures and reported statements without look bad. Yeah, no, definitely, man. This is not what you are totally. How did they do that to you? I do think it's funny that they included here. They couldn't put both because then it couldn't be close up. You had to literally go to a different zip, both of his ears in the shot. But I do like that they included, he's the only one who got at least one ear in. I know that was deliberate. And yes, I know he can hear me saying this right now from Washington, D.C. Okay, fuck you, Marco Rubio. You big-eared body shaming. Oh, shut up. I have big ears too, okay? I can do it. This is the one thing I can do. Look how big my ears are. Obviously nothing. There's no loyal or committed to President Trump's mission to Susie Wiles. She is one of the main reasons why we are a team that works together. Yeah, photographer had the fisheye lens to get both, to get even one ear in the shot.
So I think she's making that kind of a comparison. I don't know how much she's going to appreciate that or not. I think you're right to wonder. Obviously, she could make enemies with this elsewhere in the West. Vance appreciate being called a conspiracy theory. She says that Marco Rubio converted to MAGA out of principle, whereas J.D. Vance, and there's a contrast here, did it out of politics, in effect, because he was running for the Senate. Appreciate that. I think that obviously Elon Musk, says he's an odd duck. Asked at his defenestration of USAID, she said no rational person, that's her words, no rational person would have done it the way he did it. So we'll see. She had these up until now. This may be a turning point in that regard. We'll have to wait and see. But you're right. There hasn't been a lot of turnover. He hasn't wanted to give in to the outside voices saying you need to make a change. Hegseth, you got to get rid of RFK. And resistant to that. This will be a test of that or that resistance.
Eugene Robinson, give us your quick what you read of these stunning interviews.
Absolutely stunning that she would be so candid, and this is a really valuable and fascinating look, sort of behind the curtain, behind the scenes of the court of the Mad King. That's where we are, and to sort of.
I mean, you got to go through every quote that any to see trying to. Turns out. She's protecting her legacy. Her legacy is directly associated with Trump. Dementia. I do think that the reason why they do is, though, is because they think that journalists are playing ball with them. Also, I do want to show you guys my new favorite character. I saw this motherfucker all over my timeline. Yeah, also, exactly. The vice president complains about the publication which ran the interview, yet posed for this glamour shot that he... Vance's parting comments on the Vanity Fair article. If any of us have learned a lesson from that Vanity Fair article, I hope that the lesson is we should be given mainstream media outlets. Candace is live on Insta. Please look at it. These are the people who go to the strip club and think stripper is actually into you. Okay, now. Oh my gosh, she is live on Insta. What the fuck?
During that sit down, but just to make sure that you guys don't feel like I'm
even
not
on
telling
IG,
you
she got
something.
30K.
Ask me whatever it is that you want to ask me right now about the sit down that happened. Like, there was no secrets. There was like the high notes today. There's a lot that I need to process. There's a lot of interdynamics or whatever, like I explained to you today, things that did like sense to me, but I mean, what am I going to do with this information other than put it out there? So ask me anything. Did Charlie want to divorce Erica? That I saw, there's like some account, I guess, that trolls on X, and they put things out and they're like, Candace said
Wait, why
this.
don't I have a blue check mark on
made
Instagram?
that claim. I never heard that claim. I never came across that. And the person that said that came from me actually and completely come from me. What is your take on Erica? Is she covering up or does she not know? So what I always say is, like, you can clock a lie, right? So let's start with that. I did just a couple of days ago when I said I was on Jimmy Dore's show, and I was like 100% Charlie had these messages, okay? To assign the motivation for why, if that was a lie and that they shouldn't own it face to face or whatever, to assign a motivation to that is there could be 1,000 things. Are you scared the company's going to go under? Are you trying to, like, protect and make the Jewish donors happy? Like, that is definitely, like, I thought it was a very weird choice for her to do Barry. I did. Why would you do Barry Weiss? Kind of, the PR must know what the vibe is right now of how people are feeling about Israel. We all kind of feel like Israel has something to do with it. I mean, I definitely do now believe. I mean, right away, I never thought they had anything to do with it until Bibi was doing the rounds. And so I felt like it was a weird choice to do that. Because you're a Jewish that are pressuring Charlie. Yeah, I think that I had the same reaction to that everybody else had, and I felt like that was my reaction. Is I think
why
that
don't you pathetic washed? Why do you abuse your dog? 40-month subscriber? Are you all right?
Obviously, she's gonna protect the interests of the business, beyond honest with Candace Owens. I think probably the number that was weird to me is the Hamptons summit. I just have a really bad feeling in my stomach about what happened at the Hamptons. There's just too many lies surrounding the Hamptons.
I don't know.
Too many
Maybe
white lies surrounding the Hamptons.
Chatter had a
I felt
serious
in my gut that what happened at the Hamptons is there's something weird going on there. I'm gonna keep it on. And yeah, I would say about that. This person, am I going the wrong way? What surprised you the most about the conversation?
You need a blue check mark? I have one. I don't know why it's not showing.
That they own so much of it, and I don't know if that's like partially because they knew had the information, or like I don't know what if it was motivated by the right thing, or if it was more like, okay, the internet is clocking us repeatedly and we've tried the crisis PR maneuver and that's not working, it keeps backfiring. And so our last gig here is to try to be forthcoming about things that we were dishonest about. I don't know these people. I can't assign motives to it, but that's what I was genuinely surprised about. That they were willing to admit that this stuff wasn't true. One thing that I will definitely say, and that's why I brought this up on the show today, that going back to the last question, I'm very uncomfortable with the vibe that everyone is putting out. Like Tyler's, why, where, how? You have what we have. This is not convincing at all. So why are so many people saying it? That feels to me, and I feel right now, that there has never been more money spent on a PR campaign, plausibly ever. I think, and I'm not being funny, I think this is $1 billion. $1 billion campaign to say that Tyler Robinson acted alone on the roof, despite no evidence that could convince somebody that that's what happened. That's the kind of money I think.
Dude, the thing is, these guys are all, like I said, such fucking grifters that, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens is done. What a letdown. Nick Fuentes has literally been Mr. Israel didn't do it since day one. And he was mad at his audience not only a couple days ago. Israel did it. Conspiracies that Candace was presenting. And now that she actually she actually turned around and was like, Point USA actually told me. It's awesome. It's awesome. Fucking vultures, dude. It's like, so while Candace Owens' position is supposed to be closer to Nick Fuentes' position, right? That Israel didn't do this, and that you guys are being stupid for believing that Israel's doing this. You're not being a smart. Now that there is a little bit of discontent in the Candace kind of thing, he's basically, I assume he's going to lean into, he's not going to say Israel did it, but
footage is still there. So they have footage at Turning Point USA, and they have the feds. The dance was not traditionally Jewish. I think you're talking about that. Yeah, it was, I'm pretty sure. This person asking, what the F? Guys, I'm just answering your questions. What? Okay, does it scroll down? Okay, whatever. So the main, I guess that's the main point. Like, any questions that you want to ask, I'm happy to answer. Like, I mean, it really was like a 4-hour conversation. And I was nervous about, like, I hate to say this, but, like, I was worried about my safety. Like, I've been pretty clear that I think that there are people involved. Like, it didn't make sense to me, and I communicated, it didn't make sense to me why they felt so confident that people at Turning Point weren't involved.
I don't know how to do parasocial
bad blood
as well as you guys.
You've got people that have various addictions at the organization, people that are lying right now at the organization that are doing weird. Why is it such a far stretch to think that somebody had something to do with Charlie's assassination? Like a financial motive, even if there's a financial, like that, like it's your standard mystery story. Like, I mean, just like your
it's hard to find your perfect gap for your attention like this.
I wanted to understand that. I'm like, why do you guys feel that that's like almost like common sense to me? And there are a lot of people that are signaling that. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, there's no way, like, you know, Turning Point's a good organization. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I came up through Turning Point, and I know, like any other organization, you get a lot of rotten eggs. And I think that
don't you feel like a gorilla behind the glass? Watch can't speak. No, gorilla behind the glass. And somehow you pick up. I'm noticing that. First of all, you ignore it. You know what's really funny about this? I give so much more attention. I give the average chatter 1,000,000 times more attention. You don't know how good in here, you fucking dumb bitches. Now Hassan knows how we feel. Bitch, I literally read everything all the time. Are you fucking kidding me? It's the exact other streamers' chats. And I cannot believe that you fucking spoiled little babies still complain. Me. Why won't you bring every moment in the chat? I just realized, like, most normal comment to read, and oftentimes it's not a content that they choose. They ignore everything else, and they choose to focus on like one somewhat positive comment that they can lean in. It's crazy. It's plain. Tired. I'm done. I'm done for the day, guys. I did half day. Yeah. 7 hours and 21 minutes. And that's about. Love you. Review your box. So that prop. Tiny Bernie Sanders. The whole left fingertip. The H3 Crowder. 3-4 fucking years. 9 Beyonce. A Trump rally live reaction. Reading live stream fed com show chat fight. In all the ways the right wing can win online. JC. A full-blown mass pandemic. Radical is the system you were taught to trust. All these daily streams help me in so many. There he is on his stream.